He ruled an empire built on fear and power until the night he saw his invisible maid dancing in crimson under club lights and realized the woman he'd overlooked for 2 years was the only one who could undo him. But when her dangerous past came hunting, Adrian Vale faced an impossible choice. Let her disappear back into the shadows where she'd hidden herself, or claim her as his own and ignite a war that could destroy everything he'd built. Watch until the end to see how a woman who made herself invisible became the one thing a ruthless crime boss couldn't live without. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story reaches. Adrian Vale didn't believe in distraction. In his world, a carefully constructed empire of influence, control, and calculated power, distraction meant weakness. Weakness meant vulnerability. And vulnerability meant death. At 34, he had built something most men only dreamed of, an underground network that stretched across the city like invisible threads, pulling politicians, business owners, and law enforcement into a web so intricate that even those caught in it rarely understood how deeply they were entangled. He didn't deal in violence unless absolutely necessary. He dealt in leverage, information, the kind of power that didn't announce itself with gunfire but whispered through closed-door meetings and unmarked envelopes. His mansion reflected that philosophy, elegant, imposing, and utterly controlled. Every piece of furniture had been selected with purpose. Every staff member moved through the halls with practiced silence. Every detail served a function, including the people who worked for him. Adrian had 23 employees who maintained his home. He knew their names because he signed their paychecks. He knew their schedules because efficiency mattered, but he didn't know them. Not really. Why would he? They were part of the machinery that kept his life running smoothly. As long as they performed their duties without error, there was no reason to look closer. That included Lily Hart. She had worked in his household for 2 years. A maid. Quiet. Efficient. Unremarkable. If someone had asked him to describe her, Adrian would have struggled. Brown hair, maybe? Average height? She wore the standard staff uniform. Black dress, white apron, sensible shoes. She kept her eyes down when he passed. She never spoke unless spoken to. She was, in every measurable way, invisible, and that was exactly how she wanted it. Lily had learned long ago that invisibility was a survival skill. Not the kind of invisibility that came from magic or fantasy, but the real kind. The kind that meant moving through spaces without leaving an impression, without triggering attention, without becoming a target. She had perfected it over the years, this art of making herself small. She spoke softly. She dressed plainly. She avoided eye contact. She never laughed too loudly or offered opinions that might spark conversation. She became the kind of person people looked past rather than at. It wasn't natural to her. Once, years ago, she had been different, louder, brighter, more present in her own life. But circumstances had taught her the value of disappearing, of becoming someone who could be forgotten the moment she left a room. And it had worked. For 2 years, she had moved through Adrian Vale's mansion like a ghost. She cleaned his study while he worked, moving around him as though he were furniture. She prepared his morning coffee exactly the way he liked it. Black, no sugar, served at precisely 7 a.m., and left it on his desk without waiting for acknowledgement. She changed the sheets in his enormous bedroom, dusted the rare art pieces that lined his hallways, and polished the marble floors until they gleamed. She did all of this without ever truly being seen. And that was fine. Better than fine, actually. It was safe, because the last time someone had really seen her, really noticed her, really paid attention, it had nearly destroyed her. His name had been Marcus. They'd met when she was 23, working at a small cafe downtown. He'd been charming at first, attentive, interested in everything about her. He'd ask questions about her dreams, her fears, her past. He'd made her feel like she mattered. And then, slowly, that attention had curdled into something else. It started with suggestions. You'd look better in this color. Maybe you shouldn't wear that. It attracts the wrong kind of attention. I don't think you should see those friends anymore. They're not good for you. Then it became demands. Then it became control. By the time she understood what was happening, she'd already lost pieces of herself. Her friends had drifted away, confused by her sudden distance. Her family had stopped calling after too many canceled visits. Her confidence had eroded under the constant criticism disguised as care. When she finally found the courage to leave, it took everything she had. And even then, he hadn't wanted to let go. It had taken 6 months of hiding, of moving 3 times, of changing her phone number and deleting every social media account before she felt safe enough to breathe. Before she stopped checking over her shoulder every time she left a building. That was when she'd learned the value of invisibility. If no one noticed you, no one could hurt you. So when she'd gotten the job at Adrian Vale's mansion through an agency that didn't ask too many questions, she'd been grateful. The pay was excellent, the work was straightforward, and most importantly, Adrian Vale barely acknowledged her existence. Perfect. For 2 years, she had lived in the staff quarters, performed her duties with quiet efficiency, and spent her free time reading in her small room or taking long walks through the city on her days off. She had built a life that was small, yes, but it was hers, and it was safe. Until the night everything changed. The Crimson Vale was one of Adrian's properties, a high-end nightclub tucked into the city's entertainment district. He owned it primarily for networking purposes. The club attracted wealthy clientele, politicians looking to unwind away from public scrutiny, and business owners interested in making connections outside traditional boardrooms. Adrian rarely visited. He preferred quieter settings for his meetings, places where conversations couldn't be drowned out by music and crowds. But tonight, one of his associates had requested a face-to-face discussion, and the club had been the suggested location. So Adrian had agreed. He'd arrived at 11 p.m., moving through the main entrance with the kind of confidence that parted crowds without effort. The club's manager had immediately appeared at his elbow, offering the VIP section, but Adrian had waved him off. He preferred the second-floor balcony, a private area that overlooked the main dance floor while remaining separate from it. From this vantage point, he could observe without being observed, could see the flow of the crowd, the interactions between patrons, the efficiency of his staff. The meeting with his associate had lasted 40 minutes. Business concluded, Adrian had intended to leave, but then he'd seen her. At first, it was just movement that caught his eye, a flash of crimson cutting through the sea of black and silver that dominated the dance floor. He glanced down, mildly curious. A woman in a red dress. Not unusual. The club saw dozens of red dresses every weekend, but there was something about the way she moved. She wasn't dancing like someone performing for an audience. She was dancing like someone who had forgotten there was an audience at all. Her movements were fluid, unself-conscious, entirely her own. The dress, a shimmering crimson thing that caught the light with every turn, moved with her like a second skin. Adrian found himself watching. She spun, and her hair caught the light, long, dark, falling past her shoulders in waves that seemed to move with their own rhythm. She laughed. He couldn't hear it over the music, but he saw it in the way her head tilted back, in the brightness of her expression. And then she turned. The world stopped. Adrian's breath caught in his chest. His hands, resting on the balcony railing, tightened until his knuckles went white. Because the woman in the crimson dress, the woman who moved like freedom incarnate, who laughed like she had never known fear, who commanded the dance floor with effortless confidence, was Lily Hart, his maid. The woman who had worked in his home for 2 years without ever once looking him in the eye. The woman he had walked past 1,000 times without truly seeing. She was dancing in his club, in a dress that should have been illegal for the way it made every man in the vicinity stop and stare. Her face, usually so carefully neutral, so studiously blank, was alive with joy. Her body, usually hidden beneath shapeless uniforms, moved with a grace that seemed almost impossible. This wasn't the same person, and yet it was. Adrian stood frozen, unable to look away. He watched as she danced with friends. 2 women he didn't recognize, both laughing and moving with her. He watched as men approached and were politely but firmly turned away. He watched as she seemed to glow under the lights, as though she had absorbed all the energy in the room and was radiating it back. She was extraordinary. How had he never noticed? A waiter appeared at his elbow with a drink he hadn't ordered. Adrian ignored it. His entire focus had narrowed to the woman below. Questions crashed through his mind in rapid succession. Why had she hidden this? Why did she shrink herself inside his walls when she was clearly capable of being? This? Who was she really? What had made her learn to disappear? And why did it feel like a betrayal that he hadn't known? The song changed. The tempo slowed. Lily's friends pulled her toward the bar, still laughing, still glowing. She moved with them, the crimson dress catching light with every step. And then, as though sensing something, she looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. Adrian saw the exact moment recognition hit her, saw the color drain from her face, saw the joy shatter like glass. She froze. For 3 heartbeats, neither of them moved. Then Lily turned and disappeared into the crowd. Adrian didn't follow her. Not that night. He stood on the balcony for another 20 minutes, staring at the space where she'd been, trying to reconcile 2 completely different images of the same woman. The Lily who cleaned his study without making a sound. The Lily who had danced like fire given form. Both real, both her. But only one of them had been visible to him. The realization settled over him like cold water. He had employed her for 2 years, had walked past her countless times, had existed in the same spaces, breathed the same air, occupied the same building, and he had never truly seen her. He'd seen a uniform, a job title, a function, but not her. The thought disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Adrian Vale prided himself on awareness, on seeing what others missed, on understanding the people around him well enough to predict their actions, their loyalties, their weaknesses. And yet he had been completely blind to the woman living under his own roof. How many other things had he missed? How many other people had he reduced to their utility without ever seeing their humanity? The questions followed him home. The mansion was dark when he arrived. Nearly 2 a.m. The night shift staff would be awake, security primarily, but everyone else would be sleeping, including Lily. Adrian moved through the silent hallways toward his study. Sleep felt impossible. His mind was too active, too full of questions that had no immediate answers. He poured himself a drink, scotch, expensive, smoky, and settled into the leather chair behind his desk. But he didn't work. Instead, he thought about crimson dresses and invisible women. And he wondered what it would take to see her again, the real her, not the ghost she showed him every morning. Lily didn't sleep. She had made it home an hour ago, changed out of the dress, scrubbed her face clean of makeup, and climbed into bed fully expecting the exhaustion to pull her under. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, Adrian Vale, standing on that balcony, looking down at her, watching, seeing. Her stomach twisted with anxiety. This was bad. This was exactly what she'd been trying to avoid for 2 years. Attention, notice, being seen. She'd been so careful. She kept her head down, performed her duties perfectly, never gave him any reason to think of her as anything more than competent staff. And then she'd ruined it in one night. The dress had been Emily's idea. Emily, one of her only friends in the city, had insisted they go out to celebrate her birthday. "You never go anywhere," Emily had said. "You work all the time. Live a little." Lily had resisted at first. She always resisted. But Emily had been persistent, and eventually Lily had given in. And maybe, just maybe, part of her had wanted to. Because the truth was, she missed it. Missed the feeling of moving to music, of letting go, of being something other than invisible. She'd danced before Marcus. Before everything had gone wrong, it had been one of the few things that made her feel genuinely alive. So she'd borrowed the red dress from Emily's roommate, put on more makeup than she'd worn in years, and gone to the club. She hadn't known it was his club. Or maybe she had, some part of her brain recognizing the name but not connecting it to danger, because why would Adrian Vale ever be there? Except he had been. And he had seen her. Lily pulled the blanket over her head, as though that could somehow erase the memory of his eyes locking with hers across the crowded floor. As though she could hide from what had already happened. Tomorrow morning, she would have to face him. She would deliver his coffee at 7 a.m., exactly as she did every morning. And she would have to pretend that everything was normal, that he hadn't seen her, that she was still invisible. Lily pressed her palms against her eyes and tried not to panic. Morning came too quickly. Lily dressed in her uniform with shaking hands. Black dress. White apron, sensible shoes, hair pulled back in a tight bun. No makeup, no jewelry. Invisible. She prepared Adrian's coffee in the staff kitchen, her movements automatic. Black, no sugar. Exactly 7 a.m. She could do this. She had been doing this for 2 years. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. At precisely 7 a.m., Lily carried the coffee tray toward Adrian's study. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Her palms felt slick despite the cool temperature of the hallway. She knocked softly on the study door. "Come in." His voice, the same as always. Calm. Controlled. Lily pushed the door open and stepped inside. Adrian sat behind his desk, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, reading something on his tablet. He looked exactly as he always did, composed, focused, unreachable. Lily moved toward his desk, set the coffee down in its usual spot, and turned to leave. Lily. She froze. He never said her name, never addressed her directly unless giving specific instructions. Slowly, she turned back. Adrian was looking at her, not past her, not through her, at her. Yes, sir? Her voice came out steadier than she'd expected. He didn't speak immediately, just studied her with those dark, unreadable eyes. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Then, how long have you worked here? The question caught her off guard. 2 years, sir. 2 years. He repeated it as though testing the words. And in those 2 years, have we ever had a conversation? A real one, I mean. Not just instructions and confirmations. Lily's throat felt tight. No, sir. Why is that? I don't know what you mean, sir. Yes, you do. His voice was quiet but firm, not angry, just certain. You know exactly what I mean. Her heart was racing now. She wanted to run, wanted to disappear back into the safety of invisibility, but his eyes held hers, and she couldn't look away. I saw you last night, Adrian said, at the Crimson Veil. There it was, the thing she'd been dreading. I apologize if my presence there was inappropriate, sir, Lily said carefully. It won't happen again. That's not what I'm talking about. He stood, moving around the desk toward her. Not fast, not threatening, but deliberate. I'm talking about the fact that I've walked past you nearly every day for 2 years, and I never once saw you. Not really. Lily's hands twisted together in front of her. You're a busy man, sir. I'm just staff. No. The word cut through her excuse cleanly. Don't do that. Don't make yourself small right now. She blinked, startled. Adrian stopped a few feet away from her, close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to maintain eye contact, close enough that she could see the genuine confusion in his expression. The woman I saw last night, he said quietly, was nothing like the person you show me every day. She was confident, alive, completely herself. He paused. Why do you hide that here? The question hit too close to truth she didn't want to examine. I don't hide anything, sir, Lily said, but her voice wavered. I'm simply doing my job. By making yourself invisible? That's what good staff do. We stay out of the way. Is that what you think I want? Adrian's brow furrowed. For you to erase yourself? Lily didn't know how to answer that, because yes, she had thought that was exactly what he wanted. What all employers wanted. What made her valuable. The silence between them grew heavier. Finally, Adrian exhaled slowly. I'm not good at this, he admitted, at seeing people as people instead of functions. It's a failing I'm aware of. His eyes searched hers. But I'm trying to understand, why do you work so hard to be invisible? The honest question deserved an honest answer, but honesty meant vulnerability, meant opening doors she'd worked hard to keep closed. Because, Lily said softly, invisible is safe. Something flickered across Adrian's face. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. Safe from what? From being noticed, from being controlled, from being hurt. But she couldn't say that. Not to him, not to anyone. It doesn't matter, Lily said instead. She took a small step back, re-establishing distance. I should get back to work, sir. For a moment she thought he might argue, might push for more answers, but instead he nodded slowly. Of course. Lily turned toward the door, relief and disappointment warring inside her chest. Lily. She paused, hand on the doorknob. I can't stop thinking about what I saw last night. His voice was quiet but absolute. And I don't think I can go back to pretending I didn't see it. She didn't turn around, didn't trust herself to. I'm asking you to have lunch with me, Adrian continued. Not as employer and employee, as two people who apparently share the same space without knowing each other at all. Sir, I don't think... Tomorrow, 1 p.m. The garden patio. It wasn't a command, despite his tone. There was a question underneath it. Will you come? Lily's hand tightened on the doorknob. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to reestablish boundaries, to go back to being invisible. But a smaller voice, one she'd been ignoring for 2 years, whispered something different. "What if you don't have to hide anymore?" "I'll think about it, sir," she heard herself say. And then she left before he could see the way her hands were shaking. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Lily moved through her duties automatically, changing linens, dusting shelves, organizing the library, while her mind spun in circles. Lunch. With Adrian Vale, it was ridiculous, dangerous, a terrible idea on every level. He was her employer, a man who controlled an empire she didn't fully understand, someone who existed in a completely different world from hers. And yet, she kept thinking about the way he'd looked at her, not with the predatory interest she'd learned to recognize and fear, but with genuine curiosity, as though he actually wanted to know her. No one had wanted to know her in a very long time. By evening, Lily still hadn't decided. She retreated to her room in the staff quarters, a small but comfortable space with a narrow bed, a desk, and a window that overlooked the gardens. Her sanctuary. She changed out of her uniform and into comfortable clothes, then sat on the edge of the bed with her phone. A text from Emily waited. "That was amazing last night. When can we do it again?" Lily smiled despite everything. Emily had no idea that the night had gone so spectacularly wrong. She'd left the club early, claiming exhaustion, before Emily could notice anything amiss. Another text followed. "Also, you looked incredible in that dress. I told you red was your color, red, crimson, the color that had given her away." Lily set the phone down and walked to the window. The gardens were beautiful at dusk, carefully maintained roses, stone pathways, a fountain that caught the fading light. She'd walked those paths dozens of times, usually early in the morning before the rest of the staff woke. It was one of the few places in the mansion where she felt almost at peace. And now Adrian wanted to meet her there, wanted to talk to her, wanted to see her. Lily pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Part of her, the part that had learned survival through invisibility, wanted to refuse, wanted to go back to the safety of being overlooked. But another part, the part that had danced in crimson and felt alive for the first time in years, wanted something different, wanted to be seen. The war between those two parts of herself raged until well past midnight. And when she finally fell asleep, Lily still didn't know which side would win. The next morning arrived with painful clarity. Lily woke at 5 a.m., as always, showered, dressed in her uniform, and went through her morning routine with mechanical precision. Coffee at 7 a.m. She knocked on Adrian's study door. "Come in." He was already working, dressed in black today, his focus on several documents spread across his desk. Lily set down the coffee tray. "Thank you," Adrian said without looking up. She turned to leave. "Lily?" She stopped. 1 p.m., he said quietly. "I'll be in the garden." Not a command, not even really a question, just a statement of fact. He would be there. The choice was hers. Lily's hand tightened on the doorframe. "Yes, sir." And this time, she didn't say she'd think about it, because she'd already decided. Mist. At 12:50 p.m., Lily stood in her small room, staring at her reflection in the mirror above the desk. She was still in her uniform, still invisible, but her heart was pounding like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, preparing to jump. She could still change her mind, could stay here, could send word that she was needed elsewhere, had duties that couldn't wait, could go back to safe. Instead, at 12:55, Lily left her room and walked toward the gardens. The patio was shaded by an elegant pergola wrapped in climbing roses. A small table had been set with lunch. Nothing elaborate, just sandwiches and fruit and iced tea. 2 chairs. Adrian stood when she approached. He'd changed since this morning, wore dark jeans and a simple gray shirt now, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Less intimidating. More human. "You came," he said, and there was genuine relief in his voice. "You asked," Lily replied softly. They stood there for a moment, two people who had shared the same space for 2 years but were meeting, truly, for the first time. Then Adrian gestured to the table. "Please, sit." Lily sat. And as Adrian settled into the chair across from her, She realized there was no going back. She'd been seen, and now she had to decide whether that was the most dangerous thing that had ever happened to her, or the beginning of something she'd stopped believing was possible. The silence between them stretched for several heartbeats before Adrian broke it. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, gesturing vaguely at the table, at the space between them. Small talk, getting to know someone without an agenda. Lily's fingers traced the edge of her glass. "Then why did you ask me here?" "Because I can't stop thinking about what I saw." His directness caught her off guard. The woman dancing in that club, she was real. And the woman who brings me coffee every morning is also real. But they seem like completely different people, and I need to understand why. Maybe they are different people. I don't believe that. Adrian leaned forward slightly. I think you've just learned to hide one of them very well. Lily felt her chest tighten. She'd spent 2 years perfecting that skill, and he'd seen through it in a single night. Hiding isn't always a bad thing, she said quietly. Sometimes it's necessary. From what? The question hung in the air between them. Lily's first instinct was to deflect, to change the subject, to rebuild the walls that were feeling dangerously thin. But something in his expression stopped her. He wasn't asking out of idle curiosity or some desire to possess information he could use later. He was asking because he genuinely wanted to know. When was the last time someone had looked at her like that? From being noticed, Lily said finally. From standing out. From being seen? Yes. Adrian absorbed this, his dark eyes never leaving her face. That sounds exhausting. It's safe. Are those the same thing? Lily picked up her glass, needing something to do with her hands. In my experience? Yes. Tell me about your experience. It wasn't a demand. It was an invitation, and Lily found herself terrified by how much she wanted to accept it. I don't talk about my past, she said instead. Why not? Because talking about it means thinking about it, and thinking about it means remembering things I've worked very hard to forget. Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then, fair enough. We don't have to talk about the past. He picked up one of the sandwiches, offered her the plate. Tell me about the present instead. When you're not working here, what do you do? The shift in topic felt like a reprieve. Lily accepted a sandwich she wasn't sure she could eat. I read, take walks. Sometimes I meet friends for coffee. The friends from the club? Just Emily, really. She works at a bookstore downtown. We met there about a year ago. And she convinced you to go dancing? A small smile tugged at Lily's lips despite herself. She's very persuasive. It was her birthday. She said I needed to stop being such a hermit. Was she right? Lily considered the question. Maybe. I used to love dancing. Before, she caught herself, redirected. It felt good to do it again. You looked like you were born doing it. Adrian's voice held something she couldn't quite identify. Admiration, wonder. I've never seen anyone move like that, like the music was part of you. Heat crept up Lily's neck. She wasn't used to compliments, especially not from him. It's just dancing, she said, looking down at her plate. No. The certainty in his voice made her glance up. It wasn't. It was freedom. I could see it in every movement, every turn. You weren't performing, you were experiencing something. He paused. Why don't you let yourself experience things like that more often? Because experiencing things meant feeling things, and feeling things meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant, I don't know, Lily lied. But Adrian was looking at her like he could see straight through the falsehood, like he understood all the words she wasn't saying. I think you do know, he said softly. You just don't want to tell me. And that's fine. We've known each other for 2 years, but we're essentially strangers. He set down his sandwich, untouched. So let me tell you something instead. Something I don't usually share. Lily waited, surprised. I'm not good with people, Adrian began. I never have been. Even as a kid, I was better with numbers, patterns, systems, things that made logical sense. People, he shook his head slightly. People are unpredictable, emotional, irrational. I couldn't figure out the rules. So you created your own rules, Lily said quietly. His eyes sharpened with recognition. Yes. Exactly. I built a life where everything operates according to clear systems, where people have specific functions, where I don't have to navigate all the messy, complicated parts of human interaction because I've reduced it to transactions and exchanges. That sounds lonely. It is. The admission seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised her, but it's also predictable. Safe, like you said. I know what to expect. I know how to control the variables. Until you can't. Until I can't, he agreed. A slight smile crossed his face, but it didn't reach his eyes. Seeing you at that club, it broke my system. You were supposed to be one thing, and suddenly you were something completely different. It forced me to realize how much I'd reduced you to a function rather than seeing you as a person. Lily's throat felt tight. I never expected you to see me as anything else. I know. That's part of what bothers me. Adrian's gaze held hers with uncomfortable intensity. You made yourself exactly what you thought I wanted. Invisible, efficient, unremarkable. And I never questioned it because it was convenient. You're not responsible for how I choose to present myself. Maybe not, but I'm responsible for whether I look beyond the presentation. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. So I'm looking now, and I'm asking you to let me see what you've been hiding. Panic fluttered in Lily's chest. Why? Because I think we might understand each other better than either of us realized. His voice dropped lower. You hide yourself by becoming invisible. I hide myself by reducing everything to systems and control. We're both trying to protect ourselves from the same thing. Which is? Being hurt by something we can't predict or control. The words hit Lily like a physical impact, because he was right. Completely, devastatingly right. She'd spent years making herself invisible to avoid the pain of being seen, being known, being vulnerable to someone who could use that knowledge against her. And he'd spent years turning people into functions to avoid the risk of genuine connection. Two different methods, same fear. I don't know how to stop hiding, Lily whispered. I don't know how to stop controlling, Adrian replied, but maybe we could try learning together. It was the most dangerous thing anyone had said to her in years, and the most tempting. Before Lily could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She almost ignored it, but the second buzz made her pull it out. A text from an unknown number. Found you. Ice flooded her veins. Adrian noticed immediately. What's wrong? Lily's hand shook as she stared at the screen. 2 words. That was all it took to shatter the fragile moment they'd been building. Lily. Adrian's voice sharpened. What happened? She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Her vision tunneled until all she could see was those 2 words. Found you. It couldn't be. She'd been so careful, had changed her number, used a different name on social media, avoided anything that could be traced back to her old life. But somehow, he'd found her. Marcus had found her. Lily, talk to me. Adrian was standing now, moving around the table. You look like you're about to pass out. She should tell him it was nothing, should make an excuse and retreat to the safety of her room, should go back to being invisible. Instead, she heard herself say, someone from my past, someone I've been hiding from. The words came out barely above a whisper, but Adrian heard them. His expression changed instantly. The curiosity and vulnerability that had been there moments ago hardened into something else, something sharp and dangerous. Who? Not a casual question, a demand. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Adrian took the phone from her trembling hands before she could protest, read the message. His jaw tightened. Who sent this? I don't know for sure. The number's blocked. Lily wrapped her arms around herself. But I think it's my ex-boyfriend. The one you've been hiding from? She nodded. How long has it been since you've had contact with him? 3 years, since I left. Lily's voice was steadier now, but barely. I thought I was safe. I thought he'd moved on. Adrian handed back her phone, but his expression remained dangerously calm. Tell me about him. Why? Because I need to know what we're dealing with. The use of we should have felt presumptuous. Instead, it felt like a lifeline. Lily sank back into her chair. Her legs felt unsteady. His name is Marcus Webb. We dated for 2 years. At first, he was perfect, attentive, caring, interested in everything about me. The words came mechanically, like she'd rehearsed them. Maybe she had in her head, preparing for a conversation she'd hoped would never happen. Then he started changing. Small things at first. Suggestions about what I should wear, who I should see. Then bigger things. Controlling my phone, my schedule, my friends. Adrian sat down across from her again, his focus absolute. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd lost most of my support system. My friends had drifted away. My family barely called anymore because I'd canceled so many visits. Lily's hands twisted together. When I finally left, it took everything I had. I moved 3 times in 6 months, changed my number 4 times, deleted every online presence I had. And it worked, Adrian said. Until now. Until now. What did he do when you left? Did he threaten you? Lily's laugh was bitter. Marcus was too smart for direct threats. He showed up at my work, called from different numbers, sent messages through mutual friends. Always just concerned, just worried about me, just wanting to make sure I was okay. She met Adrian's eyes. That's the thing about people like him. They're very good at seeming reasonable to everyone else. It's only when you're alone with them that you see what they really are. Controlling. Suffocating, Lily corrected. Like slowly drowning. You don't even realize you can't breathe until you're gasping. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. What do you think he wants now? I don't know. Maybe just to scare me, to remind me that he can still find me whenever he wants. Lily looked down at her phone at those 2 terrible words. Or maybe he wants me back. That's not going to happen. The certainty in Adrian's voice made her look up. You don't know that, she said. Yes, I do. Adrian's expression was absolutely cold. Because you're not alone anymore. And Marcus Webb has made a serious miscalculation. What do you mean? He's threatened someone under my protection. That changes everything. Lily blinked. I'm not under your protection. I'm just your employee. No. Adrian's voice dropped to something deadly quiet. You stopped being just anything the moment I saw you in that club. The moment I realized I'd been blind to who you actually are. He leaned forward. And now someone is trying to hurt you. That's not acceptable. Adrian, you don't have to. I'm not doing this because I have to. He cut her off gently but firmly. I'm doing this because I want to. Because you deserve to feel safe. Because no one should have to spend 3 years hiding from someone who should have respected their decision to leave. Lily's chest felt tight with an emotion she couldn't name. Fear, maybe. Or hope. Or something dangerous that lived between the two. What are you going to do? She asked. Find out if it's really him. Find out where he is. Find out what he wants. Adrian pulled out his own phone. And then make it very clear that he needs to leave you alone. He won't listen. He never listened. He'll listen to me. There was something in Adrian's tone that made Lily believe him, something that suggested Marcus had no idea what he'd just walked into. Adrian made a call. It was answered on the first ring. James, I need you to trace a number for me. He rattled off the blocked number from Lily's phone. I want to know who owns it, where they are, and everything about them. How fast can you get that to me? A pause. 20 minutes? Good. Adrian ended the call and looked at Lily. My head of security. He'll have answers soon. Lily felt like she was watching this happen from outside her body. You don't have to do this. Stop saying that. Adrian's voice was firm, but not unkind. I know I don't have to. I'm choosing to. There's a difference. Why? Because the woman I saw dancing in that club deserves to do that whenever she wants without fear. Because the person sitting across from me right now shouldn't have to make herself invisible to feel safe. He paused. And because something happened between yesterday and today. Something shifted. I can't go back to pretending I don't see you, Lily, and I won't let someone else make you disappear again. Lily didn't know what to say. Every instinct told her to be suspicious, to question his motives, to protect herself. But when she looked at Adrian, really looked at him, she didn't see possession or control in his eyes. She saw determination, protection, rage on her behalf. No one had been angry for her in a very long time. Thank you, she whispered. Adrian's expression softened slightly. Don't thank me yet. Let's see what we're actually dealing with first. They sat in tense silence for the next 15 minutes. Lily couldn't eat, could barely think, just stared at her phone like it might explode. When Adrian's phone rang, they both jumped. James, what did you find? Adrian listened, his face growing progressively darker. You're sure? I see. No, don't approach him yet. Just monitor for now. Yes, I'll handle it from here. He ended the call and looked at Lily with an expression she couldn't read. It's him, Adrian said. Marcus Webb. The number is registered to a phone purchased 3 days ago. He's currently staying at the Meridian Hotel downtown, 4th floor. The room spun slightly. He's here, in the city. Yes? How did he find me? James is still working on that. But my guess? Social media. Even if you deleted your accounts, your friends probably haven't. One photo, one tag, one location check-in from someone you know. Adrian's voice was grim. It doesn't take much. Lily thought of Emily, of their night at the club, of the dozens of photos Emily had probably posted without thinking twice. She wasn't angry. Emily didn't know, didn't understand what she was running from. But it meant Marcus knew where she was, had probably known for days. What do I do? Lily asked. Nothing. Adrian stood. You stay here, you stay safe, and I handle this. No. Lily stood too, surprising herself. I'm not hiding while you fight my battles. This isn't about fighting your battles. This is about keeping you protected while I remove a threat. He's not going to hurt me. He never did. Not physically. He just... Lily struggled to find the right words. He suffocates people, controls them, makes them feel like they can't exist without him. That's still harm, Adrian said quietly. Just because he didn't hit you doesn't mean he didn't hurt you. The validation nearly broke her. I know, Lily whispered. I know it was real. I know what I felt, but other people, they never understood. They'd say, at least he didn't hit you, like that made it better. Like emotional abuse doesn't count as real abuse. It counts. Adrian's voice was steel, and he's going to understand that very clearly. Before Lily could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Same blocked number. We need to talk. Tonight, 8 p.m. The coffee shop on 5th and Main. Come alone. Lily's blood went cold. Adrian read over her shoulder. Absolutely not. It's a public place. I don't care. You're not meeting him. Adrian, no. His tone left no room for argument. This is exactly what he wants, to isolate you, to get you alone, to reassert control. Adrian took her phone again, started typing. I'm responding for you. What are you saying? That you're not interested in meeting, that he needs to stop contacting you, that if he continues, there will be consequences. Lily watched him type with swift, decisive strokes. Part of her wanted to protest. This was her life, her problem, her choice. But another part felt relief that someone else was handling it, that she didn't have to face Marcus alone, that someone was standing between her and the person who'd nearly destroyed her. Adrian sent the message, then blocked the number entirely. That won't stop him, Lily said. He'll just get another phone. I know, but it buys us time. Adrian made another call. James, I need security increased on the property immediately. No one enters without clearance. Yes, especially the staff areas. Send me a photo of Marcus Webb. I want everyone on the team to know his face. Good. He ended the call and turned back to Lily. You're not leaving the property until this is resolved. You can't keep me prisoner. I'm not keeping you prisoner. I'm keeping you safe. There's a difference. Adrian's expression softened slightly. I'm asking you to trust me, just for now. Until I know what he wants and how dangerous he might be. And then what? Then I make him understand that you're not someone he can control anymore. That you're protected. That if he comes near you again, he'll regret it. Lily wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle this herself. But the truth was, she couldn't. She'd run from Marcus for 3 years, and he'd still found her, still reached out, still tried to pull her back. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to let someone else stand beside her. Okay, Lily said quietly. I'll stay. Relief flickered across Adrian's face. Thank you. But I want to know what you're planning. I want to be part of the decisions. Fair enough? Adrian gestured back toward the table. Sit. We'll figure this out together. They spent the next hour planning. Adrian made calls, gathered information, assembled his team. Lily watched in fascination as the man who'd reduced life to systems and control transformed into something else entirely. Protective, strategic, absolutely focused. This was the Adrian Vale who'd built an empire, who commanded loyalty through capability and certainty, who turned complex problems into solvable puzzles, and he was using all of that power to protect her. By the time the sun started to set, they had a plan. James would continue monitoring Marcus's location. Security would be increased throughout the property. Adrian would arrange a meeting with Marcus, not at the coffee shop, but somewhere controlled, somewhere safe, somewhere Adrian held all the advantages, and Lily would stay out of sight until they knew what they were dealing with. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. As they stood to leave the patio, Adrian caught her hand. The contact was brief, gentle, but it sent electricity through her entire body. "I meant what I said earlier," Adrian told her. "You're not alone anymore. Whatever happens with Marcus, you have someone standing with you now." Lily looked up at him, at this complicated, controlled man who'd seen her when she'd worked so hard to be invisible. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. Not just of Marcus, of—" She gestured vaguely between them. "This, whatever this is becoming." "I'm scared too," Adrian said quietly. "I don't know how to do this, how to care about someone without trying to control them, how to protect without suffocating." His grip on her hand tightened slightly. "But I want to learn, if you'll let me." It was the vulnerability in his voice that decided her, the admission that he was as uncertain about this as she was. "Okay," Lily whispered. "We'll figure it out together." Adrian smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. Together. They walked back toward the mansion as twilight painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. And for the first time in 3 years, Lily felt something other than fear about her future. She felt possibility. But that night, as she lay in bed unable to sleep, another message came through. A different number, but the same sender. "I know you're with him. I know you think you're safe, but you're not. You belong to me, Lily, and I always get back what's mine." Lily stared at the words until they blurred, and she realized that Marcus wasn't just trying to find her. He was declaring war. Lily didn't show Adrian the message right away. She told herself it was because it was late, past midnight, and he was probably sleeping. Told herself she'd deal with it in the morning when her head was clearer and her hands weren't shaking quite so badly. But the truth was simpler and more complicated. She was terrified of what Adrian might do. Not to her. For her. And that distinction was starting to matter in ways she hadn't expected. So she lay in the darkness of her small room, phone clutched in her hand, reading those words over and over until they burned themselves into her brain. "You belong to me." No. She didn't. She hadn't belonged to Marcus when they were together, even though he'd done everything possible to make her believe otherwise. And she certainly didn't belong to him now, 3 years and 100 choices later. But knowing that intellectually and feeling it emotionally were two different things, because part of her, the part that had spent 2 years learning to be invisible, the part that still flinched at loud voices and unexpected touches, whispered that maybe Marcus was right. Maybe she would never truly be free of him. Maybe he would always find her, always reach her, always pull her back into that suffocating orbit. Lily pressed her palms against her eyes until colors bloomed in the darkness. No. She'd left once. She could stay gone. And this time, she wasn't alone. The thought of Adrian, of his absolute certainty when he'd said she was under his protection, of the cold fury in his eyes when he'd learned about Marcus, sent warmth through her chest. But it also sent fear. Because Adrian Vale was a man who solved problems, who controlled variables, who built systems that eliminated threats. And Lily had seen enough of his world to understand that eliminating threats might mean something very different for him than it did for ordinary people. What if he hurt Marcus? What if this escalated into something violent? What if Adrian's protection came with a cost she hadn't anticipated? The questions circled through her mind until exhaustion finally pulled her under around 3 a.m. When she woke 4 hours later, her first thought was the message. Her second thought was that she had to tell Adrian. She dressed quickly in her uniform. The armor of invisibility felt necessary this morning. and went to prepare his coffee. But when she reached the kitchen, Adrian was already there. He stood at the counter in dark pants and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, making coffee himself. The sight was so unexpected that Lily stopped in the doorway. He noticed her immediately. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I didn't. Not much, anyway." Lily moved into the kitchen, suddenly uncertain of the protocol. This was her job, making his coffee. But here he was, doing it himself. Adrian poured 2 cups, added nothing to his own, then looked at her with a raised eyebrow. "How do you take yours?" The question caught her off guard. "You don't have to—" "How do you take it, Lily?" "Cream, no sugar." He added cream to the second cup and handed it to her. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Lily felt that same electricity from yesterday. "Something happened last night," Adrian said. "Not a question. An observation." Lily wrapped both hands around the warm mug. Another message. Adrian's expression went very still. "Show me." She pulled out her phone with her free hand and opened the message. Watched his face as he read it. The transformation was immediate. The gentleness that had been there moments ago vanished, replaced by something cold and deadly. "When did this come in?" His voice was quiet, too quiet. "Around midnight. And you didn't tell me immediately because it was late, because I didn't want to bother you, because—" Lily trailed off, unable to articulate the real reason. "Because you were afraid of what I might do," Adrian finished for her. The accuracy startled her. "Yes." He set down his coffee carefully. "What do you think I'm going to do?" "I don't know. That's what scares me." Lily met his eyes. "You have power I don't understand, resources I can't predict. And Marcus," she swallowed hard, "he knows how to play victim, how to make himself look reasonable while making everyone else look crazy. If this escalates, if you do something that could be turned against you—" "You're worried about me?" Surprise flickered across Adrian's face. "Of course I'm worried about you." The words came out more forcefully than she'd intended. "You barely know me, and you're ready to go to war with someone from my past. That could damage you, your reputation, your business, everything you've built. And you think that matters more to me than your safety? It should." "Well, it doesn't." Adrian moved closer, not touching her, but near enough that she had to tilt her head to maintain eye contact. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to believe me. Marcus Webb can't hurt me. He doesn't have the resources, the connections, or the intelligence. What he has is audacity and a fundamental misunderstanding of who he's dealing with. You don't know him. I know his type." Adrian's voice carried absolute certainty. "Men who mistake control for strength, who prey on people they perceive as weaker, who operate through manipulation and fear because they lack any real power." His eyes locked with hers. "I've dealt with dozens of Marcus Webbs, and every single one of them folded the moment they faced real consequences. He won't fold. He'll dig in. He always does. Then I'll make the consequences severe enough that he has no choice." Adrian's tone left no room for argument. "But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Lily wanted to, desperately wanted to, but trust was a muscle she hadn't exercised in years, and it felt weak and uncertain. "I'm trying," she said honestly. Something softened in Adrian's expression. "That's enough." He pulled out his own phone. "I'm calling James. We're moving up the timeline." "What timeline?" "I was going to wait another day or two before approaching Marcus. Gather more information, understand his patterns, find the right leverage." Adrian's jaw tightened. "But this message changes things. He's escalating, and when someone escalates, you meet them with overwhelming force." Lily's stomach knotted. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to have a conversation with Marcus Webb today, and by the end of it, he's going to understand that you are permanently off limits." "Let me come with you." "Absolutely not." "Adrian, no." He was already dialing. "This isn't negotiable. You stay here where you're safe. I handle Marcus. I'm not a child who needs protecting while the adults handle things. I know that." Adrian lowered the phone before the call connected, giving her his full attention. "This isn't about treating you like a child. This is about not giving Marcus what he wants." "What do you mean?" "He wants access to you, wants to see your reaction, gauge your fear, reassert control." Adrian's voice was patient but firm. If you're there, he gets all of that. If you're not, he gets nothing except me. And I promise you, that's not going to go the way he expects. Lily understood the logic. Hated it, but understood it. What if he doesn't listen? What if he keeps coming? Then I escalate until he does listen. Adrian lifted the phone again. Trust me, Lily, please. There was that word again. Trust. Okay, Lily whispered, but you have to promise me something. What? That you won't do anything that could come back to hurt you, no matter how angry he makes you, no matter what he says. Her voice strengthened. I'm not worth destroying yourself over. Adrian's expression went very soft. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle, it made her throat tight. Yes, you are, he said quietly. But I promise I'll be smart about this. No unnecessary risks, no lost control. His hand lingered near her face. Deal? Deal. He made the call. 20 minutes later, James arrived with 3 other security personnel. They gathered in Adrian's study while Lily hovered in the hallway, trying not to feel like she was being deliberately excluded. She could hear Adrian's voice through the door, calm, authoritative, giving instructions she couldn't quite make out. Could hear James responding with military precision. Then the door opened and Adrian emerged. It's arranged, he told her. Marcus agreed to meet, 2 p.m., at one of my properties downtown, a private office building, neutral ground but controlled. He just agreed, just like that? He thinks he's walking into a negotiation. Adrian's smile was sharp and utterly without humor. He thinks I'm going to try to buy him off or threaten him with resources he doesn't believe I have. He thinks he holds all the cards because he has information about you that he can use as leverage. What information? Nothing that matters. Old addresses, phone numbers, details about your life before you came here. Adrian's voice was dismissive. He mentioned some of it when he called James to confirm the meeting, tried to imply that he could make things difficult for you if I didn't cooperate. Rage flashed through Lily, hot and bright. Marcus was trying to use her past as a weapon, trying to threaten Adrian with information that would only hurt her. What did James say? That we'd discuss it in person. Adrian checked his watch. I'm leaving in an hour. James and 2 others will come with me. The rest of the team stays here with you. I don't need... Humor me, Adrian interrupted gently. Please. Lily exhaled slowly. Fine, but I want updates. I want to know what's happening. You'll know everything as soon as I know it. Adrian moved closer, and this time his hand found hers. This is going to be over soon, and then you can dance in crimson dresses whenever you want without looking over your shoulder. The image made her smile despite everything. That sounds nice. It will be. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. I promise. Then he was gone, leaving her with instructions to stay inside, stay calm, and stay safe. Lily managed 2 out of 3. She stayed inside. She stayed safe. But calm was impossible. She tried reading, couldn't focus, tried cleaning her room, finished in 10 minutes, tried calling Emily, but her friend was at work and couldn't talk. So she paced. Back and forth across her small room, phone clutched in her hand, waiting for updates that didn't come. 1 p.m. passed. 1:30. 2 p.m. 2:15. By 2:30, Lily was ready to climb the walls. At 2:45, her phone finally buzzed. A text from Adrian. Meeting in progress. He's exactly what I expected. Don't worry. Not exactly reassuring, but better than silence. Lily sat on the edge of her bed and tried to imagine what was happening downtown. Adrian sitting across from Marcus. 2 men who inhabited completely different worlds, brought together because of her. What was Marcus saying? What lies was he spinning? What version of their relationship was he presenting? And more importantly, what was Adrian saying back? Another 20 minutes crawled by. Then, it's done. On my way back. You're safe. Relief and curiosity warred in Lily's chest. What had done mean? What had happened? She tried calling. No answer. Tried texting. What happened? The response came 5 minutes later. Tell you when I get there. 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. Lily went downstairs to the main floor, too restless to stay confined. One of the security guards, a woman named Sarah, stayed nearby but didn't crowd her. He'll be fine, Sarah said quietly. Adrian always knows what he's doing. Does this happen often? Confrontations like this? Often enough. Sarah's expression was carefully neutral. Adrian protects what matters to him, and he's very good at making people understand boundaries. The phrasing caught Lily's attention. What matters to him? Sarah just smiled. Before Lily could press further, she heard the front door open. Adrian. She moved toward the entrance hall, heart pounding. He looked exactly the same as when he'd left. Composed, unruffled, completely in control. But there was something different in his eyes. Something satisfied. "Walk with me," he said, gesturing toward the garden. Lily followed him outside, aware of Sarah and the other guards maintaining a discreet distance. They walked in silence until they reached the fountain, the same place where everything had begun to shift between them just yesterday. "Tell me," Lily said. Adrian turned to face her. "Marcus Webb will not be bothering you again." "How can you be sure?" "Because I gave him a choice, and he made the smart one." "What kind of choice?" Adrian was quiet for a moment, as though choosing his words carefully. "I showed him evidence of his own behavior over the past 3 years. Phone records showing the dozens of numbers he's used to contact you. Social media searches he's conducted. The private investigator he hired 6 months ago to track you down." His voice was clinical, detached. "I explained that this constitutes harassment and stalking under state law, that I have attorneys who would be happy to file charges, that I have connections in law enforcement who would be very interested in these patterns of behavior." Lily's breath caught. "You found all of that? In less than a day?" "I have good people." Adrian's expression was unreadable. Then I offered him an alternative. "Leave you alone, completely, permanently, and all of that evidence stays private. Continue pursuing you, and it becomes very public very quickly." "And he agreed?" "He tried to argue at first. Said you were confused, that you'd run from a good relationship, that he was only trying to help you." Adrian's jaw tightened. I let him talk himself into a corner. Let him reveal exactly who he is. Then I explained in very clear terms what would happen if he ever contacted you again. "What did you say?" "That I would destroy him." No emotion in Adrian's voice, just fact. "Not physically, not illegally, but I would dismantle his life piece by piece using completely legal means. His job, his reputation, his social circle. Everything he's built would crumble, and everyone would know exactly why." The coldness of it should have frightened Lily, should have reminded her of the power Adrian wielded, the empire he controlled, the danger of trusting someone who could be that ruthless. But instead, she felt something else entirely. Protected. For the first time in 3 years, someone had stood between her and Marcus, had said no on her behalf, had made it clear that she was not available to be claimed or controlled or pursued. "How did he react?" Lily asked. "He was angry, tried to threaten me with exposure. Apparently he thinks he knows things about my business dealings that could be damaging." Adrian's slight smile was humorless. "He doesn't. But even if he did, it wouldn't matter. The choice was binary. Leave you alone or face consequences. He chose correctly." "You really think he'll stay away?" "Yes." Absolute certainty. Because Marcus is a coward. He preys on people he perceives as vulnerable, as having no protection, no resources to fight back. The moment he realized you have both, that you have me, the equation changed entirely. Adrian moved closer. He signed a legal document agreeing to cease all contact. If he violates it, the consequences are automatic and severe, and I made very sure he understood that I would be monitoring compliance. Lily's head spun. It seemed too easy, too simple. 3 years of running, and Adrian had solved it in one afternoon. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Adrian's voice gentled. "You just have to believe that it's over, that you're safe now, that you can stop hiding." Could she? Could she really believe that Marcus was gone? That the threat had been neutralized? That she could breathe without constantly checking over her shoulder? "I want to believe it," Lily said honestly. "But I've spent so long being afraid." "I know." Adrian's hand found hers again, and this time the contact felt different, more solid, more real. "Fear doesn't disappear overnight, but you don't have to face it alone anymore." Lily looked up at him. at this complicated man who'd gone from barely noticing her to completely rearranging his life to protect her in the span of 3 days. "Why are you doing this?" The question came out raw. "You said it's not obligation, but it can't just be because you saw me dancing. There has to be more." Adrian was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a vulnerability she'd never heard before. "When I saw you in that club, I saw everything I'd been missing. Not just about you, but about life. About what happens when you reduce everything to systems and control." He paused. "You were joy and freedom and absolute presence. You were everything I'd eliminated from my own existence because it felt too messy, too unpredictable, too dangerous. And that made you want to help me? That made me want to know you. Really know you, not just walk past you every morning." His grip on her hand tightened. "And once I started knowing you, once I saw the person underneath the invisibility, I couldn't unknow it, couldn't go back to treating you like furniture." "So this is guilt?" "No." Firm, definite. "This is recognition. You're brave in ways I've never been. You survived something that tried to break you, and you kept going. You rebuilt yourself even though it meant hiding parts of who you are." His eyes searched hers. "I admire that. And I want to be the kind of person who makes it safe for you to stop hiding." Lily's throat felt tight. "I don't know how to do this. How to let someone care without waiting for it to turn into control." "Then we learn together." Adrian's other hand came up to cup her face, gentle and careful. "I don't know how to care without trying to fix everything. You don't know how to be cared for without expecting it to become a cage." "We're both terrible at this." Despite everything, Lily laughed. "That's not very reassuring." "No, but it's honest." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "I can promise you honesty, Lily. I can promise you that I'll tell you when I'm scared or uncertain or making mistakes. I can promise that I'll ask instead of assume, listen instead of dictate." His voice dropped lower. "And I can promise that you will always have the choice to walk away. No consequences. No retaliation. Just respect for your decision." The promise meant more than he probably realized, because choice was the thing Marcus had stolen from her, the thing she'd spent 3 years trying to reclaim. And here was Adrian, offering it freely. "What if I make the wrong choice?" Lily whispered. "There are no wrong choices, only different paths." Adrian's smile was small but genuine. "But I hope you choose to stay, at least long enough to give this a real chance." But Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. This was terrifying, dangerous, everything she'd sworn to avoid, but it was also a possibility. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll stay." Adrian's expression transformed, relief and something else, something warmer and more complicated. "Thank you," he said. Then, slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, he leaned down and pressed his lips to her forehead. The kiss was chaste, gentle, nothing like the passion she'd seen in movies or read about in books. But it was perfect. Because it wasn't about possession or claim or conquest. It was about acknowledgement, protection, promise. When Adrian pulled back, his eyes held questions he didn't ask. And Lily realized she wanted him to. "I'm not ready for more than this," she said honestly. "Not yet. Too much is happening too fast." "I know." No disappointment in his voice, just understanding. "We move at your pace. Always." "Even if my pace is glacially slow?" "Even then." Adrian's hand slipped from her face to find hers again. "I'm not going anywhere, Lily, and neither is Marcus. You have time to figure out what you want." What she wanted. When was the last time anyone had asked her that? When was the last time she'd even asked herself? "I want to feel safe," Lily said slowly, working through the thoughts as they formed. "I want to stop being afraid. I want to dance without checking exits. I want to exist without constantly calculating risk. You'll have all of that. I want more too." The words came harder now. "I want to remember who I was before Marcus. I want to find the parts of myself I buried. I want to be whole again." "You are whole." Adrian's voice was certain. "You just had to break yourself into pieces to survive. But the pieces are all still there. You just need time to put them back together." The metaphor settled over Lily like a blanket. Pieces. Not broken beyond repair, just scattered. Still present, still recoverable. Still hers. Will you help me? She asked. However you need me to. They stood together in the garden as afternoon shifted toward evening, hands linked, neither quite ready to let go. And for the first time since she'd left Marcus 3 years ago, Lily felt something other than fear about the future. She felt hope. But that night, as she lay in bed replaying the day's events, her phone buzzed one final time. Not a message. A call. Unknown number. Lily's heart seized. Marcus. It had to be Marcus, violating the agreement already, proving Adrian wrong. She answered, hands shaking. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Female. Familiar. Is this Lily Hart? Yes. Who is this? My name is Diana Webb, Marcus's sister. A pause. We need to talk about what you're doing to my brother. Lily's blood went cold. Because Marcus had never mentioned having a sister, which meant either he'd hidden her deliberately, or she was lying, and neither option was good. I don't know what you're talking about, Lily said, fighting to keep her voice steady. And I don't know you. But you know Marcus. Diana's voice was smooth, controlled, nothing like the aggressive tone Lily had been expecting. And you know what you did to him today. What I did? Anger flared hot in Lily's chest. I haven't spoken to Marcus in 3 years. Whatever happened today was between him and Adrian Vale. Yes, I know. Something sharp entered Diana's tone. My brother came home shaking, said your boyfriend threatened to destroy his entire life if he ever tried to contact you again. He's not my boyfriend, and Marcus has been harassing me. That's not how he tells it. Diana's interruption was surgical. He says you disappeared without explanation, that he's been worried sick for years, that he hired investigators just to make sure you were safe. A pause. That sounds like concern, not harassment. Lily's grip tightened on the phone. This was exactly what Marcus did. Twisted narratives, reframed reality, made himself the victim of circumstances he'd created. I left because he was controlling me, Lily said flatly. Because he monitored my phone, isolated me from friends, made me feel like I couldn't breathe without his permission. Or maybe you were dealing with mental health issues and he was trying to help. Diana's voice remained infuriatingly calm. Maybe you ran because you were scared of getting better, of facing your problems. The words hit like a slap, because that was Marcus's favorite accusation, that Lily was mentally unstable, that her perceptions were distorted, that she needed his guidance to function properly. I'm not having this conversation, Lily said. Then just listen. Diana's tone shifted, became almost conspiratorial. I'm not calling to attack you. I'm calling because I think there's been a misunderstanding. Marcus made mistakes, sure, he admits that, but he's changed. He's been in therapy, working on himself, trying to become better. That's wonderful for him, but it doesn't change what happened between us. Doesn't it? People deserve second chances, Lily, especially when they've done the work to earn them. Diana paused for effect. Marcus just wants to apologize, face to face, give you the closure you both need. Is that really so terrible? Every word was calculated, every pause deliberate. Diana spoke like someone who'd practiced this speech, refined it, turned it into something that sounded reasonable on the surface, but underneath, Lily heard the manipulation. No, she said firmly. I don't want an apology. I don't want closure. I want him to leave me alone, which is exactly what he agreed to do today. Under duress, after being threatened by a man with far too much power and far too little oversight. Diana's voice hardened slightly. Do you know what Adrian Vale does, Lily? The kind of things his empire is built on? The people he's hurt? I don't care what rumors you've heard. Not rumors. Facts. I did my research after Marcus told me about today's meeting. Diana's words came faster now, more urgent. Adrian Vale operates in gray areas that would make most people uncomfortable. He has connections to politicians, law enforcement, business owners, all of them compromised, all of them in his pocket. He doesn't ask for cooperation, he buys it or takes it. Lily's stomach twisted. She'd known Adrian wielded significant power, had seen glimpses of the resources he commanded, but she'd never asked questions about where that power came from or what it cost. Even if that's true, Lily said slowly, it doesn't change the fact that Marcus stalked me, that he violated my boundaries repeatedly, that he made you feel unsafe. I understand. Diana's voice softened again, sympathetic now. But consider this. You've traded one controlling man for another. Marcus wanted to manage your life. Adrian wants to manage your entire world. How is that better? The question lodged itself in Lily's chest like a splinter. Was Diana right? Had she simply exchanged one cage for another? No. Adrian had given her choices, had promised respect for her decisions, had protected her without trying to own her. But a small voice whispered, "How do you know? It's only been 3 days." Marcus was perfect for months before he showed his true nature. What makes you think Adrian will be different? I need to go, Lily said abruptly. Wait, please. Desperation crept into Diana's voice. Just think about what I said, about whether the man protecting you is actually giving you freedom or just a prettier version of control. A pause. My number will be in your call history. If you change your mind about talking to Marcus, really talking, not through lawyers and threats, call me. I'll arrange something safe, public, completely your choice. That won't happen. Maybe not, but the offer stands. Diana's voice softened one final time. I hope you find what you're looking for, Lily. I really do. I just don't think you'll find it with Adrian Vale. The call ended. Lily sat in the darkness of her room, phone still pressed to her ear, mind racing. She should tell Adrian. Should tell him immediately about Diana's call, about the things she'd said, about the doubts she'd tried to plant. But something stopped her. Because what if Diana was right? What if Lily was seeing what she wanted to see instead of what was really there? What if Adrian's protection came with strings she hadn't noticed yet? The thoughts spiraled until Lily forced herself to stand, to move, to do something other than sit in the dark drowning in uncertainty. She pulled on a sweater over her pajamas and left her room. The mansion was quiet at this hour, past 11 p.m., but she knew Adrian was probably still awake. He kept late hours, often working until 2 or 3 in the morning. She found him exactly where she expected. In his study, surrounded by documents and screens, a glass of scotch at his elbow. He looked up when she knocked softly on the open door. Concern immediately crossed his face. What's wrong? Lily stepped inside, closing the door behind her. I got a call from someone claiming to be Marcus's sister. Adrian's expression went very still. What did she say? That Marcus is devastated, that he's changed, that he just wants to apologize. Lily wrapped her arms around herself. And that you're just as controlling as he is, just better at hiding it. For a long moment, Adrian said nothing, just studied her with those dark, unreadable eyes. Then he set down his pen and stood. Do you believe her? I don't know. Honesty felt necessary, even though it made her vulnerable. I want to say no immediately, but part of me wonders if she's right, if I'm just trading one kind of control for another. That's a fair question. Adrian's voice was calm, which somehow made the conversation feel more dangerous. And I can't answer it for you. You have to decide for yourself whether you feel controlled or protected. How am I supposed to know the difference? Control takes away choices. Protection creates space for them. Adrian moved around his desk, but didn't come closer. Have I taken away any of your choices since this started? Lily thought about it. No, you've asked, you've suggested, but you haven't demanded. And if you told me right now that you wanted to meet with Marcus, to hear his apology, to make your own decision about whether he's changed, what would I say? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. I'd say it's your choice. Adrian's voice was steady. I tell you what I think, that it's a bad idea, that Marcus hasn't changed, that Diana is trying to manipulate you on his behalf. I'd offer to arrange the meeting somewhere safe with security present, but ultimately, I'd respect your decision. Even if I chose wrong? There is no wrong choice, only consequences, and those belong to you. Adrian's expression was serious. That's the difference between what I'm offering and what Marcus gave you. He made decisions for you disguised as caring about you. I'm giving you information and support so you can make decisions for yourself. Lily wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that the distinction was real and not just semantics. Diana said things about you, she said quietly. About your business, about compromised connections and gray areas. All true. Adrian didn't flinch. I operate in spaces where traditional rules don't always apply. I have relationships with people in positions of power that some would consider inappropriate. I use information and leverage to achieve outcomes I want. He paused. Does that scare you? Yes. Good. It should. Adrian's honesty was startling. I'm not a hero, Lily. I'm not some noble protector with pure intentions. I'm a man who built an empire on understanding power and how to wield it effectively. Sometimes that means doing things other people wouldn't approve of. Like what? Like threatening Marcus with legal destruction if he doesn't comply. Like using private investigators to gather information without warrants. Like calling in favors from people who owe me for reasons I can't discuss. His eyes held hers. I'm not apologizing for any of that. But I'm being honest about it. You should know exactly who you're trusting. The rawness of his admission took her breath away. Because Marcus had never been honest, had always presented himself as reasonable, as concerned as having her best interests at heart, had gaslit her into doubting her own perceptions. But Adrian was laying out his flaws like cards on a table, letting her see the full picture, trusting her to make her own judgment. Why are you telling me this? Lily asked. Because you deserve to know. Because I'd rather you make an informed choice than a comfortable lie. Adrian's voice dropped lower. And because if we're going to do this, whatever this is becoming, it has to be built on truth, even when the truth is ugly. Lily absorbed this, tried to imagine Marcus ever being this honest, this vulnerable, this willing to show his real self. She couldn't. Diana wants me to call her, Lily said, to arrange a meeting with Marcus. She said it would be public, safe, completely my choice. It would also be exactly what Marcus wants. Adrian's tone was matter-of-fact. He's using his sister to get around the boundaries I established. It's a classic manipulation tactic. Send a proxy who seems more reasonable, more sympathetic, to wear down your resistance. You think Diana's lying about being his sister? No, I think she exists, and I think she genuinely believes she's helping her brother. But I also think Marcus has fed her a version of events that paints him as the victim. Adrian moved to his desk, pulled up something on his computer. James did background on Marcus Webb. He has a sister named Diana Webb Morrison. Married, 2 kids, lives in the suburbs. Works as a guidance counselor at a high school. A guidance counselor? Lily's stomach sank. Someone trained to mediate conflicts, to see both sides, to believe in redemption and second chances. Adrian's voice was grim. Marcus chose his proxy well. She sounds credible because she is credible. She just doesn't have accurate information. Lily sank into one of the leather chairs facing Adrian's desk. Her head felt too full, her thoughts too tangled. What do I do? She asked. What do you want to do? I want this to be over. I want Marcus gone. I want to stop feeling like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Lily pressed her palms against her eyes. But I also want to be sure I'm making the right choice. That I'm not running from something I should face. You already faced Marcus. 3 years ago when you left. Adrian's voice was firm. You don't owe him anything else. Not your time, not your attention, not your forgiveness. Diana made it sound like I was being cruel, like denying him closure was selfish. Closure is something people give themselves. It's not something you can provide for him. Adrian came around the desk, crouched down so he was at eye level with her. Marcus wants access to you. That's what this is really about. He wants to see you, to talk to you, to reassert some kind of connection. Whether that's to apologize or to manipulate you back into his life, the effect is the same. He gets what he wants, and you lose the peace you've been building. Lily met his eyes. You really think he hasn't changed? I think people can change, but I also think it takes more than a few months and some therapy sessions to fundamentally alter patterns that took years to develop. Adrian's expression was serious, and I think the fact that he immediately violated our agreement by sending his sister to contact you tells me everything I need to know about how seriously he's taking his promise to leave you alone. The logic was sound, but doubt still gnawed at Lily's edges. What if I'm wrong about him? What if he really does just want to apologize and I'm being paranoid? Then you're wrong. And the consequence is that someone who hurt you doesn't get the satisfaction of your forgiveness. Adrian's voice was gentle. But if you're right, if he's still the person he was 3 years ago, then meeting him means giving him another opportunity to hurt you. Which risk feels bigger? Lily knew the answer immediately. Being wrong about Marcus's intentions was uncomfortable but survivable. Being wrong about her safety was potentially devastating. "I'm not going to call Diana," she said quietly. Relief flickered across Adrian's face, quickly controlled. "Okay, but I need to know something." Lily leaned forward. "If I had decided differently, if I'd said I wanted to meet Marcus, would you really have supported that decision?" Adrian was quiet for several heartbeats. When he spoke, his honesty was almost painful. "I would have hated it, would have tried to talk you out of it, would have insisted on being there with a full security team." He paused. "But yes, if you were genuinely certain it was what you needed, I would have respected it, because your autonomy matters more than my comfort. Even though you don't trust Marcus? I don't have to trust Marcus to trust you." Adrian's voice was firm. "If you believed meeting him was necessary for your healing, then it would be necessary. My job isn't to make decisions for you. It's to make sure you have the support and safety to make decisions for yourself." Lily felt something shift in her chest, because that was the difference Diana had tried to obscure. Marcus had made decisions for Lily disguised as protection. Adrian was offering actual protection so Lily could make her own decisions. The distinction mattered. "Thank you," Lily said softly. "For what?" "For being honest, for not trying to manipulate me into the answer you wanted." She managed a small smile. "For being exactly as controlling as you said you weren't." Adrian's answering smile was genuine. "I'm trying. It's harder than it looks." "I know." Lily stood, suddenly aware of how late it was and how emotionally exhausted she felt. "I should let you get back to work." "Lily." Adrian caught her hand as she turned toward the door. "One more thing." "Yes?" "Diana's call tonight. It won't be the last contact attempt. Marcus is testing boundaries, trying to find angles that work." His grip tightened slightly. "If anyone else reaches out, I need you to tell me immediately. No waiting, no wondering if you should handle it yourself, okay?" "Okay, hey." "I mean it." Diana sounded reasonable because Marcus knew she would. The next person might sound even more credible. Adrian's eyes were serious. "Don't let him isolate you through doubt. That's his strategy." Lily understood. Marcus had always been skilled at finding vulnerable spots, at planting seeds of uncertainty that grew in darkness. "I'll tell you," she promised. "No more late-night crisis spirals alone." "Good." Adrian released her hand, but his expression remained concerned. "Try to sleep. Tomorrow will be better." Lily nodded and left the study, but sleep felt impossible. She returned to her room and lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Diana's words circling through her mind like vultures. Had she traded one controlling man for another? Was Adrian's protection just a prettier version of possession? Was she seeing clearly, or seeing what she wanted to see? The questions haunted her until exhaustion finally won around 3 a.m. When she woke 6 hours later, her first conscious thought was that something felt different. It took a moment to identify what. She felt angry. Not at Adrian, not even really at Marcus, at Diana. Because Diana had called under the guise of concern, had wrapped manipulation in the language of care, had tried to make Lily doubt the one thing that had started to feel safe. And Lily was tired of people trying to tell her what to think. She got up, dressed quickly, and went looking for Adrian. She found him in the breakfast room, reading something on his tablet while drinking coffee. He looked up when she entered, and concern immediately crossed his face. "You look like you didn't sleep much." "I didn't, but I figured something out." Lily sat down across from him. "I'm done being polite." Adrian set down his tablet, giving her his full attention. "Explain." "For 3 years I've been nice about this, patient, understanding. I left Marcus without making a scene. I never pressed charges, even though what he did was harassment. I didn't tell mutual friends the real reasons I disappeared because I didn't want to cause drama." Lily's voice strengthened, and now he's using that against me, telling his sister I abandoned him without explanation, acting like he's the victim, sending proxies to guilt me into giving him what he wants. "Yes," Adrian said simply. "That's exactly what he's doing. So I want to stop being nice." Lily leaned forward. "I want to be clear, definitive. I want Marcus to understand that there is no version of reality where we have contact again. No apologies, no closure, no second chances. Just done." Adrian's expression shifted into something approving. "What do you need from me?" "Help me craft a message. Something I can send to Diana that's polite but absolute. Something that can't be twisted or reinterpreted. Lily's jaw set. I want to close this door completely. I can do that. Adrian pulled out his phone. But I need you to be sure. Once you send something like this, there's no walking it back. It's a permanent boundary. I'm sure. And she was. Completely, finally sure. I don't owe Marcus anything. Not my time, not my energy, not my guilt. I left for good reasons, and those reasons haven't changed. No, they haven't. Adrian started typing and say, how's this? Diana, I appreciate you reaching out, but I need to be clear. I left Marcus 3 years ago because the relationship was unhealthy. I have not changed my mind. I do not want contact with him now or in the future. Please respect this boundary and do not contact me again on his behalf. I wish you and your family well. Lily read it over. Professional, clear, final. It's perfect. You want to send it from your phone or mine? Mine. It needs to come from me. Lily took a breath. But I want you there when I do it. Always. Adrian handed her his phone so she could copy the message. Send it whenever you're ready. Lily opened her messages, found Diana's number, and copied Adrian's words verbatim. Her finger hovered over the send button for just a moment. Then she pressed it. The message went through with a soft whoosh, and Lily felt something release in her chest. Not relief exactly, more like resolution. Done, she said quietly. How do you feel? Like I just slammed a door that's been open too long. Lily set down her phone. Good. Scared, but mostly good. The fear will fade. Adrian's voice was certain. The good will stay. They sat together in comfortable silence while Lily processed what she'd just done. She'd drawn a line, established a boundary, taken back power she hadn't realized she'd been giving away. Her phone buzzed. Diana's response came faster than expected. I understand. I'm sorry things ended this way, but I hope someday you'll reconsider. Marcus really has changed. Lily showed Adrian the message. She doesn't believe you, he observed. I know, but that's not my problem. Lily blocked Diana's number without responding. I said what I needed to say. What she does with it is her choice. Adrian's smile was proud. Look at you, setting boundaries like a professional. I learned from watching you. Lily managed a small smile back. You're very good at telling people no. Years of practice. Adrian's expression grew more serious. But I need you to prepare for the possibility that Marcus won't accept this, that he'll find other ways to try to reach you. I know, Diana was test number 1. There will probably be others. Lily squared her shoulders. But I'm not backing down. I'm done running, done hiding, done being afraid of someone who only has power if I give it to him. That's the right mindset. Adrian stood, came around the table. But you're not facing this alone. Whatever comes next, we handle it together. Together. The words settled over Lily like a promise. For 3 years, she'd been alone. Had made decisions in isolation, had carried fear like a weight, had survived through pure stubbornness and the belief that invisibility equaled safety. But she wasn't alone anymore. And she was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, being seen wasn't the most dangerous thing that could happen to her. Maybe it was the beginning of being free. Adrian's hand found hers, warm and steady. What do you want to do today? The question surprised her. After everything that had happened, the normalcy of it felt jarring. I don't know. I haven't thought past blocking Diana's number. Then let me make a suggestion. Adrian's voice was careful. Take the day off, no work, no responsibilities, no thinking about Marcus or Diana or threats. Just do something for yourself. I can't just not work. Yes, you can. I'm giving you the day. Not a command, an offer. Go into the city if you want. Visit Emily. Go dancing. Buy something completely impractical, whatever sounds good. Lily considered this. When was the last time she'd done something purely for pleasure? Something that wasn't calculated for safety or efficiency? She couldn't remember. What if Marcus is out there? What if he sees me? He won't. James confirmed he left the city last night. Went back to wherever he came from. Adrian's voice was certain. And even if he didn't, you have security. No one is going to hurt you. The idea of leaving the mansion, of going somewhere public, somewhere visible, sent both fear and excitement through Lily's system. "I could call Emily," she said slowly. "See if she wants to get lunch." "Perfect." Adrian pulled out his phone. "I'll arrange a car and security, but no security." The words came out before Lily could second-guess them. Adrian looked at her sharply. "Lily, I need to do this without bodyguards following me around. I need to feel normal again, even if it's just for a few hours." She met his eyes. "You said I have choices. This is me choosing." She could see him wanting to argue, could see the concern and the instinct to protect warring with the promise he'd made about respecting her decisions. Finally, he exhaled slowly. "Okay, but you keep your phone on. You check in every 2 hours. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you call me immediately. Deal?" "I'm serious, Lily. Don't be brave if something happens. Just call." "I will, I promise." Lily squeezed his hand. "Thank you for trusting me." "I'm terrified," Adrian admitted. "But yes, I trust you." 2 hours later, Lily sat across from Emily in a small cafe downtown, feeling more like herself than she had in years. Emily had been thrilled by the last-minute invitation, had taken an extended lunch break, and was currently regaling Lily with stories about the bookstore's most eccentric customers. "So this guy comes in asking for a book about the philosophy of cats," Emily said, laughing. "And I'm thinking, like, books about cats and literature? But no, he literally wanted philosophy as written by cats. I had to explain that cats don't write books." Lily laughed, a real laugh, full and genuine. "What did he say?" "That I clearly wasn't looking hard enough." Emily grinned. "I love my job, but sometimes I wonder about people." They talked about everything and nothing. Books and customers, and Emily's ongoing disaster of a dating life. Normal things, human things, things that had nothing to do with fear or control or running. It felt wonderful. "You seem different," Emily observed after they'd ordered dessert. "Lighter, somehow." "I feel different." Lily stirred her coffee. "Like I'm finally starting to breathe again." "Does this have anything to do with your mysterious employer?" Emily's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "You've been working there for 2 years and never mentioned him once. Now suddenly you're glowing." "I'm not glowing." "You absolutely are." Emily leaned forward conspirationally. "Come on, give me something. Is he cute, mean, secretly a vampire?" Lily laughed despite herself. "He's complicated." "Complicated how?" "Complicated like he sees things other people miss. Like he's incredibly smart and a little bit scary and completely honest, even when honesty is uncomfortable." Lily paused. "Like he makes me want to stop hiding." Emily's expression softened. "That sounds like more than just an employer." "It might be. I don't know yet." Lily looked down at her coffee. "It's new and strange, and I'm not sure what I'm doing. Does he make you happy?" The question was simple. The answer was complicated. "He makes me feel safe," Lily said slowly, "which is different from happy, but maybe more important right now." "Safe is good." Emily reached across the table to squeeze Lily's hand. "You deserve safe and happy and all the good things." Lily squeezed back, grateful for this friendship that had survived her need for distance and privacy. They finished lunch, and Emily had to get back to work. They hugged goodbye on the sidewalk, promising to do this more often. As Lily walked back toward where the car was waiting, her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. "Everything okay?" She smiled and responded, "Perfect. On my way back now." His reply came immediately. "Good. I was starting to worry." Lily pocketed her phone and breathed in the cool afternoon air. The city moved around her, people rushing to appointments, street vendors calling out, cars honking in the eternal dance of urban traffic. Normal life. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be part of it, instead of hiding from it. Maybe Diana had been wrong about more than just Adrian's intentions. Maybe Lily wasn't trading one cage for another. Maybe she was finally learning to fly. The car ride back to the mansion felt different from every other journey Lily had taken in the past 3 years. She wasn't checking mirrors for followers, wasn't calculating escape routes, wasn't making herself small in the back seat, hoping to disappear. She was simply riding home. The word surprised her. Home. When had Adrian's mansion stopped being a workplace and started feeling like sanctuary? When he saw you, a quiet voice answered. When he chose to look beyond the uniform and recognize the person underneath, the driver, a quiet man named Robert, who'd worked for Adrian for years, pulled up to the main entrance. Lily thanked him and walked inside, expecting to find the usual afternoon calm of staff moving through their duties. Instead, she found Adrian waiting in the entrance hall. He looked tense, not quite worried, but close. "You're back early," he said, relief evident in his voice despite the casual words. Emily had to get back to work. Lily studied his expression. "Were you actually worried?" "Terrified, if I'm being honest." Adrian's smile was rueful. "Turns out letting someone I care about walk around unprotected is harder than I thought." Someone I care about. The words settled in Lily's chest like warmth. "I was fine," she said gently. "No threats, no Marcus, no drama, just lunch with a friend." "Good." Adrian visibly relaxed. "I'm glad. You needed that." "I did." Lily moved closer. "Thank you for letting me go. I know it wasn't easy for you." "Nothing about this is easy." Adrian's honesty was becoming familiar. "But it's worth it." Before Lily could respond, James appeared from the direction of Adrian's study, tablet in hand and expression serious. "We have a situation," he said without preamble. Adrian's entire demeanor shifted instantly. "What kind of situation?" "Marcus Webb filed a restraining order application this morning against you." James handed over the tablet. "Claims you threatened him with physical violence, used your influence to intimidate him, and are harassing him through proxies." Lily's blood went cold. "That's not what happened." "Of course it's not." Adrian's voice was calm as he scanned the document. "This is retaliation. I made him sign an agreement, so now he's trying to paint himself as the victim." He looked up at James. "What's the timeline?" "Hearing scheduled for next week. He'll need to prove imminent danger to get a temporary order approved." James's tone was clinical. "Given that we have evidence of his own stalking behavior and the signed agreement where he promised to cease contact with Ms. Hart, I doubt he'll succeed." "But the accusation is out there now," Adrian said grimly. "That's the point. He's creating a paper trail that suggests I'm the aggressor." "Why would he do that?" Lily asked, though part of her already knew. "Because if he can make me look dangerous, he can position himself as your protector." Adrian's eyes met hers. Classic abuser tactic. Isolate the victim by making everyone else seem threatening. "But I already told Diana I wasn't interested." "Diana's not the end game. She was phase 1. Adrian handed the tablet back to James. "This restraining order is phase 2. If it goes through, I'm legally barred from contacting Marcus, which means I can't stop him from contacting you." The strategy was elegant in its manipulation. Marcus was using the legal system to remove Adrian as an obstacle while simultaneously making himself appear reasonable and victimized. "What do we do?" Lily asked. "We fight it. James will coordinate with our attorneys. We'll present evidence of Marcus's actual behavior, the stalking, the harassment, the violation of boundaries." Adrian's voice was steady. "And we'll make very clear who the real victim is here." "Me." Lily's voice came out smaller than she intended. "Yes." Adrian's expression softened. "Which means we're going to need you to be willing to go on record about what Marcus did, about why you left, about the past 3 years. Panic fluttered in Lily's chest. Going on record meant exposure, meant people knowing her business, meant becoming visible in exactly the way she'd spent years avoiding. "I don't know if I can do that," she whispered. "I understand." Adrian moved closer, not touching, but present. "It's a lot to ask, but without your testimony, this becomes my word against his, and Marcus is betting that you'll be too afraid to speak up." "He's right." Shame burned in Lily's throat. "I am afraid." "Fear is rational, but so is courage." Adrian's voice was gentle. "And you've already been brave. You left him. You rebuilt your life. You sent that message to Diana, setting boundaries." He paused. "This is just the next step. What if no one believes me? What if they think I'm lying or exaggerating? Then we provide evidence, phone records, testimonies from people who saw the relationship, documentation of the times you moved, changed numbers, deleted accounts." James spoke up for the first time. "We build a case that's impossible to dismiss. And you don't have to do this alone," Adrian added. "I'll be there. My attorneys will be there. We'll make sure you're protected throughout the entire process. Lily wanted to run, wanted to disappear back into invisibility where things felt safer, simpler. But a stronger part of her, the part that had danced in crimson, that had blocked Diana's number, that had reclaimed small pieces of herself over the past few days, wanted something else, wanted to fight back. "Okay," she said, voice shaking but determined. "I'll do it. I'll testify." Relief flooded Adrian's expression. "Thank you. But I need help. I don't know what to say or how to say it or—" "We'll prepare you," James assured her. "The attorneys will walk through everything beforehand. You'll know exactly what to expect." "When do we start?" "Now, if you're willing." Adrian gestured toward his study. "The attorneys are standing by for a video conference." Lily took a deep breath. "Okay, let's do this." The next 3 hours were intensive and exhausting. Adrian's legal team, two sharp-eyed attorneys named Rebecca and Marcus, who'd clearly handled situations like this before, walked Lily through every detail of her relationship with Marcus. It was brutal. She had to recount the ways he'd isolated her from friends, the monitoring of her phone and social media, the constant criticism disguised as concern, the way he'd made her feel like she was losing her mind, questioning her own perceptions until she didn't trust herself anymore. And then she had to talk about leaving, about the fear that had driven her to move 3 times in 6 months, about the dozens of blocked numbers, about building an entire life around the principle of being invisible. By the time they finished, Lily felt wrung out and raw, but also something else, validated. Because Rebecca and Marcus didn't question her, didn't suggest she was being dramatic or oversensitive. They treated her testimony as serious, credible, important. "You're going to be an excellent witness," Rebecca said at the end. "Clear, specific, emotionally controlled. The judge will believe you." "What happens next?" Lily asked. "We file a counter motion. Show that Marcus's restraining order application is frivolous and retaliatory. Present your testimony and evidence as context." Rebecca's smile was sharp. "And we make very clear that the person who needs protection here is you, not him." After the attorneys disconnected, Lily sat in Adrian's study feeling simultaneously empowered and exhausted. Adrian, who'd been present for the entire session but silent unless asked a direct question, finally spoke. "How are you doing?" "I feel like I just ran a marathon." Lily leaned back in the chair. "But a good marathon. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." Adrian poured 2 glasses of water from the pitcher on his desk, handed her one. "You were incredible. Strong and clear and honest. I was terrified the whole time. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." Adrian sat on the edge of his desk, close but not crowding. "And you just showed more courage than most people manage in a lifetime." Lily sipped her water, letting the cool liquid soothe her throat. "Do you really think we'll win?" "I think Marcus severely underestimated what he's dealing with. He's used to intimidating people who have no resources, no support system, no way to fight back." Adrian's voice was certain. "But you have all of those things now, and more importantly, you have truth on your side." "Truth doesn't always win." "No, but it gives you a fighting chance. And combined with good attorneys and solid evidence?" Adrian's slight smile was confident. "We're going to destroy his case." Lily wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this would end the way he predicted. But 3 years of running had taught her to expect the worst. As if reading her thoughts, Adrian added quietly, "Even if something goes wrong at the hearing, which it won't, Marcus still can't reach you. He's geographically distant, legally constrained, and facing consequences if he violates the agreements he's already signed." He paused. "You're safe, Lily. That's not going to change." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I won't let it change. Simple. Absolute. Neither will James or Rebecca or Marcus, the attorney, not the Nightmare X." Adrian's expression turned serious. "You're not alone in this anymore, and that makes all the difference." The words settled over Lily like a blanket. For 3 years, she'd been alone, had made every decision in isolation, carried every burden solo, survived through sheer stubborn will. But she wasn't alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The next week passed in a blur of preparation and anticipation. Lily continued her regular duties at the mansion, but everything felt different now. She wasn't hiding, wasn't making herself invisible. She was simply living. Adrian had stopped treating her as staff entirely. They had breakfast together most mornings, talking about everything from books to current events to the completely mundane details of daily life. He asked her opinions on things, not in a testing way, but because he genuinely wanted to know what she thought. It was strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. The night before the hearing, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed until midnight, then gave up and went looking for Adrian. She found him exactly where she expected, in his study, working late as always. He looked up when she knocked, concern immediate in his expression. "Can't sleep? Too nervous." Lily stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Keep running through tomorrow in my head. What if I freeze? What if I can't speak?" "Then Rebecca will speak for you. That's what attorneys are for." Adrian set down his pen. "But you won't freeze. You're stronger than you think." "I don't feel strong." Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and persistent and shows up even when you're terrified. Adrian stood, moved around the desk. "You've been showing that kind of strength for 3 years. Tomorrow is just the next step." Lily wrapped her arms around herself. "What if Marcus is there?" "At the hearing." "He will be. It's his application." Adrian's voice was matter-of-fact. "But you won't be alone with him. I'll be there. Rebecca and Marcus will be there. Court officers will be there. And if he tries to approach you, security will intervene." "I don't want to see him." "I know, but seeing him might actually help." At Lily's confused look, Adrian explained, "Right now, Marcus exists in your head as this enormous threat. But in reality, he's just a man. Smaller than your fear of him, weaker than your courage." He paused. "Seeing him might remind you of that." Lily considered this. For 3 years, Marcus had been a monster in her imagination, a threat too big to face. But what if Adrian was right? What if seeing him, really seeing him, not through the lens of past trauma, but through present reality, diminished his power? "I hate that this is still happening," she said quietly. "I thought leaving would be the end. But it just keeps going." Because Marcus doesn't accept reality. He believes he's entitled to you, to your attention, to your life. Adrian's voice hardened. "But tomorrow, we're going to make reality very clear, and he's going to have to accept it whether he wants to or not. And if he doesn't, then the consequences escalate until he does." Adrian moved closer. "I meant what I said before. He can't hurt you. Not while I'm here." Lily looked up at him, at this complicated man who'd gone from barely noticing her to completely reorganizing his life around protecting her in the span of a week. "Why?" The question came out raw. "Why do you care so much?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a vulnerability she'd rarely heard. "Because when I saw you dancing in that club, I saw something I'd forgotten existed. Joy, freedom, life lived without constant calculation." He paused. "You reminded me that there's more to existence than systems and control, and I don't want to go back to the way things were before." "Before you saw me?" "Before I remembered what it felt like to care about someone more than I cared about maintaining control." Adrian's eyes held hers. "You changed something in me, Lily, and I'm grateful for it." Lily's throat felt tight. "I didn't do anything." "You existed, authentically, courageously." Adrian's slight smile was gentle. "That's not nothing." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Lily said quietly, "I'm scared about tomorrow, but I'm also ready." "Good, because Rebecca sent final prep notes an hour ago." Adrian returned to his desk, pulled up an email on his computer. "Want to go through them one more time?" "Yes." They spent the next hour reviewing testimony, anticipated questions, and strategy. By the time they finished, exhaustion had finally caught up with Lily. "Get some sleep," Adrian told her. "Tomorrow, we end this." Lily nodded and headed toward the door. "Lily?" She turned back. "Thank you for trusting me with this. I know it wasn't easy." "It's getting easier," Lily said honestly. And it was. The hearing was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the downtown courthouse. Lily dressed carefully that morning, professional but not severe. A navy dress, simple jewelry, minimal makeup. She wanted to look credible without appearing to try too hard. Adrian met her in the entrance hall, dressed in a dark suit that emphasized the power he usually kept understated. "Ready?" he asked. as I'll ever be. The car ride was quiet. James drove while Rebecca and the other Marcus rode in a separate vehicle. Security would be present but discreet. As they pulled up to the courthouse, Lily felt her anxiety spike. This was real. This was happening. Adrian must have sensed her panic because his hand found hers, warm and steady. "Breathe," he said quietly. "You've got this." They entered the courthouse through a side entrance Rebecca had arranged. Less public, more controlled. They were directed to a private waiting room where Rebecca briefed them one final time. "Marcus Webb arrived 20 minutes ago with his sister Diana," Rebecca reported. "No attorney, which is interesting. Suggests he's either overconfident or underprepared." "Or both," Adrian said dryly. "His case is weak. We've already submitted your counter-evidence. The judge has had time to review everything." Rebecca looked at Lily. "When you're called to speak, just tell the truth. Simple, direct, honest. That's all you need to do." Lily nodded, not trusting her voice. At 9:55, they were called into the courtroom. Lily's first glimpse of Marcus in 3 years was jarring. He looked ordinary. Not the monster she'd built up in her mind, not the terrifying figure who'd haunted her nightmares. Just a man in his 30s, moderately attractive, dressed in business casual. Small. That was the word that came to mind. He looked small. Diana sat beside him, expression carefully sympathetic. When she saw Lily, something flickered across her face. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. The judge, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor, called the hearing to order. Marcus presented his case first. He spoke about feeling threatened by Adrian's influence, about being coerced into signing an agreement under duress, about fearing for his safety. He was good, convincing even. He spoke with just the right amount of concern and vulnerability. But Lily noticed something he probably didn't realize. He never once looked at her, not when he described their past relationship. Not when he talked about being worried for her well-being. Not when he claimed Adrian was preventing him from ensuring she was safe. He couldn't look at her. And Lily realized why. Because looking at her would mean seeing her as real. As a person with agency and choices. And Marcus's entire worldview depended on her being a thing he could manage, rather than a person who could reject him. When it was Rebecca's turn, she was surgical. She presented evidence of Marcus's stalking behavior. Phone records showing dozens of calls from different numbers. Social media searches. The private investigator he'd hired. She presented the signed agreement where Marcus had promised to cease contact. And then she called Lily to testify. Lily stood on shaking legs and approached the witness stand. The judge looked at her kindly. "Please state your name for the record." "Lily Hart." "Ms. Hart, can you describe your relationship with Marcus Webb?" Lily took a breath, found Adrian's eyes in the audience, drew strength from his steady presence. Then she spoke. She described the relationship, how it had started well, how it had gradually turned controlling, how Marcus had isolated her from support systems and made her doubt her own perceptions. She described leaving, the fear, the multiple moves, the changed numbers. She described the past 3 years of constantly looking over her shoulder. And she described the relief she'd felt when Adrian had finally made Marcus understand that she was not available to be reclaimed. Throughout her testimony, Marcus sat very still. Diana's expression shifted from sympathetic to uncertain. When Lily finished, the judge asked, "Do you fear Mr. Webb?" "Yes," Lily said honestly. "Not because I think he'll physically harm me, but because he doesn't accept that I have the right to refuse him. And that's terrifying." The judge made notes. Then she looked at Marcus. "Mr. Webb, based on the evidence presented here, it appears that you have engaged in a pattern of unwanted contact with Ms. Hart over several years. The restraining order you're requesting suggests that Mr. Vale threatened you, but the evidence suggests that his intervention was necessary to stop your harassment of Mrs. Hart." She paused. "Do you have any response to this?" Marcus finally looked at Lily, and in that moment, she saw him clearly for the first time in years. Not as a monster, not as an unstoppable force, just as a man who'd convinced himself that his wants mattered more than her needs. "I was trying to help her," Marcus said, and he actually sounded like he believed it. "She was confused when she left. I just wanted to make sure she was okay." By hiring investigators to track her, By contacting her from multiple numbers after she'd made clear she wanted no contact? The judge's voice was skeptical. That doesn't sound like help, Mr. Webb. That sounds like stalking. I love her. Mr. Webb, the judge's voice was firm. Ms. Hart has made her wishes abundantly clear. You are to have no further contact with her. No calls, no messages, no third-party communications. If you violate this order, you will face legal consequences. Do you understand? Marcus's jaw tightened. Yes. Furthermore, your request for a restraining order against Adrian Vale is denied. The evidence shows that his actions were protective, not threatening. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. It was over. Lily felt something break loose in her chest, relief so intense it was almost painful. Marcus stood, Diana beside him, and left the courtroom without looking back. Rebecca smiled. Clean win. Couldn't have gone better. Adrian appeared at Lily's side, his hand finding hers immediately. How are you? Lily searched for the right word. Free. I feel free. You are free. Adrian's voice was warm. He can't touch you now. Legally, emotionally, physically, it's done. They left the courthouse through the same side entrance. No drama, no confrontation, just quiet victory. In the car, Lily leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. Thank you, she said quietly. You did the hard part, Adrian replied. I just provided support. You did more than that. Lily opened her eyes, looked at him. You gave me the courage to stop running, to stand up for myself, to believe I deserved protection. You always deserved that. Adrian's expression was serious. I'm just glad I could help you see it. They drove back to the mansion in comfortable silence, and Lily realized something had fundamentally shifted. She wasn't invisible anymore, wasn't hiding, wasn't afraid. She was just herself. That evening, Adrian found Lily in the garden where everything had begun a week ago. I have something for you, he said, holding out a small wrapped box. Lily took it, curious. What is this? Open it. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small crimson stone pendant. I saw you in that red dress, Adrian said quietly, and I realized I'd never seen anything more beautiful, not because of the dress, but because of what it represented. You, completely yourself, unafraid and alive. He paused. I wanted you to have something to remember that, to remind you that you never have to hide again. Lily's eyes stung with tears. It's perfect. May I? She turned, lifting her hair. Adrian fastened the necklace, his fingers gentle against her skin. When she turned back, his eyes held a question. I know this week has been intense, he said carefully, and I know we said we'd move at your pace, but I need to tell you something. Okay, I'm falling for you. Simple, direct, honest. Not the invisible version you showed me for 2 years, not the dancing version I saw in the club, but you, all of you, the scared parts, and the brave parts, and everything in between. Lily's heart hammered. I don't know if I'm ready. I know, and that's fine. I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm just telling you where I stand. Adrian's voice was steady. Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Lily looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd seen her when she was invisible, who'd protected her without trying to own her, who'd given her choices instead of making decisions for her, who'd helped her remember that being seen could mean being safe instead of being trapped. I'm not ready for everything, she said slowly, but I'm ready for this. She rose on her toes and kissed him. It was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, Adrian's smile was radiant. That's enough, he said softly. That's more than enough. They stood together in the garden as twilight painted the sky in shades of gold and purple, and Lily understood finally what freedom felt like. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of choice, the presence of someone who saw her completely and chose to stand beside her instead of over her, the presence of herself, whole, visible, and finally ready to stop hiding. 2 weeks later, Lily walked into the Crimson Veil wearing that same red dress, but this time she wasn't alone. Adrian stood beside her, proud and certain, as they moved onto the dance floor together, And when Lily danced, spinning and laughing under the lights, she wasn't escaping anything. She was celebrating the end of invisibility, the beginning of trust, the discovery that being seen by the right person wasn't dangerous at all. It was the most liberating thing she'd ever experienced. Adrian pulled her close as the music shifted to something slower. Happy? He asked. Getting there, Lily replied honestly. But yes, happy. Good. He kissed her forehead gently. You deserve to be happy. Every single day. And standing there in his arms, the crimson pendant warm against her skin, Lily finally believed it. She deserved happiness. She deserved safety. She deserved to be seen, and she would never disappear again.